welcome to This Explainer. Okay, we all use Microsoft Excel, right? Like practically every single day. But honestly, very few of us actually stop to think about its underlying structural hierarchy. It is so easy to just open it up, stare at that massive grid, and treat it like a giant blank canvas. But today, we're taking a deeper architectural dive. We are going on a macro to micro journey to really demystify Excel's fundamental file structure. We'll be breaking down the object model step by step, so you can start engineering and organizing your data with absolute precision.
So, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll look at workbooks and worksheets. Then, we'll zoom in to columns, rows, and cells. After that, we'll tackle ranges and tables. And finally, we'll wrap up with the command center.
All right, let's jump into section 1, workbooks and worksheets, the biggest containers.
You know, people throw around the words workbook and worksheet like they mean the exact same thing, but in Excel's object model, they are fundamentally different. The workbook is your entire Excel file. Think of it as a thick physical ring binder. The worksheet, on the other hand, is just a single individual page tucked inside that binder. You can actually spot these individual pages right at the bottom of your screen as tabs, usually labeled Sheet 1, Sheet 2, and so on.
Which brings up a really fun little architectural quirk. If the workbook is our digital binder and the worksheet is just a single page inside it, how many of those pages can you actually stuff into one file before Excel finally cuts you off? Take a quick second to guess the maximum sheet capacity.
The magic number is 255. Yeah, a single workbook can hold up to 255 individual worksheets. It's just a neat technical limitation to keep in your back pocket. But honestly, it gives you an impressive amount of compartmentalized storage space, all perfectly contained within just one single file on your machine.
Moving right along to section 2, columns, rows, and cells, the fundamental blocks.
So, let's talk about the cell. This is the absolute lowest level object in Excel's entire data hierarchy. Rather than just thinking of it as a little box to type things into, think of it as the fundamental node, where all your variables, your static data points, and your calculations are officially stored and executed.
Think of it kind of like a giant game of Battleship. Excel relies on an absolute coordinate system to index all of this data. The exact intersection of the X and Y axes creates a totally unique address for every single node. So for example, right where column C and row 4 meet, you get the active cell known as C4. This precise pinpoint addressing is exactly what allows the software's engine to instantly pull and cross-reference data from anywhere in the entire workbook.
Now, here is where it gets super interesting. What makes this system so incredibly powerful is the split between the front-end display and the back-end logic. A cell might just display a simple number, right? Like a 4. But if you click on that cell and look up above the grid at the formula bar, it reveals its true identity. That 4 might actually be a dynamic computation typed out as equals 2 times 2. And that right there is the real magic of Excel. The grid quietly runs these complex, automated equations in the background, all while presenting a super clean, finalized result for you on the surface.
Which leads us perfectly into section 3, ranges and tables, grouping your data. So when we zoom out a bit and grab a whole bunch of those individual coordinate points together, we get what's called a range. A range is simply identified by its top left and bottom right nodes, like say C4 to K17. Understanding ranges is absolutely crucial because it opens the door to array processing. Basically, instead of calculating everything cell by painstakingly slow cell, you can apply mass functions to the entire array all at once. For instance, using the AutoSum tool lets Excel evaluate a massive range and instantly drop a total at the bottom, saving you from writing out tedious individual equations.
But wait, it gets even better. If you take that basic range and convert it into a formatted table, you're actively telling Excel, hey, treat this data like a structured database. And boom, that unlocks a whole new tier of power. Your column headers instantly get these handy drop-down filters and push-button slicers so you can rapidly query your data. Tables also let you snap on automatic totals rows for things like averages or sums. Plus, if you type a new formula into just one cell, the table will literally auto-cascade that logic all the way down the entire column for you. It even exposes a dedicated table design tab for instant aesthetic control, a total game changer.
All right, final stretch, section 4, the command center, navigating the interface.
If you've ever felt overwhelmed by all the menus, just remember that Excel's user interface is actually built on a very strict logical taxonomy. Tab, ribbon, group. First, you click a tab, like Home or Data. That opens up a wide ribbon full of specific tools. But that ribbon is further compartmentalized into logical groups, like font or alignment. Once you understand this strict UI logic, you completely stop having to blindly memorize where buttons are. Instead, you just navigate the hierarchy organically. It makes so much more sense.
Of course, let's be real. Even with a perfectly logical hierarchy, finding one specific tool out of hundreds can still be a pain. That is exactly where the search box comes in to bypass the ribbon entirely. By using the Tell Me What You Want to Do field right at the top of the window, you just start typing what you need, like chart or freeze panes, and Excel will instantly surface that exact executable button right there in the results. It is a massive time saver.
So there you have it. By breaking the software down this way, knowing that a workbook holds worksheets, those worksheets consist of coordinate-mapped cells, and those cells are controlled via a strict tab ribbon group hierarchy, the interface stops being just an intimidating sea of blank boxes. It suddenly becomes a highly structured, totally predictable object model. Now that you actually possess the map to this platform, what will you engineer within your digital binder? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you next time as we continue to break down the tools that power our digital world.